episode 225 Above Ground Podcast. Help me.
Hey everybody, this Saturday, October 7th, NAMI walks the Capital Region. NAMI's doing a walk for mental health. Start time is at 10 a.m., Washington Park in Albany, New York. You can learn more at namiwalks.org/Capital Region. That's namiwalks.org/Capital Region. Sign up, walk today for mental health. Mental health for all. And stop at the Above Ground Podcast table and say hi.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the perspective. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
This is Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
That's right. And if that voice sounds familiar, if you think it's the voice of our disclaimer, then you are correct.
What do they win, Tim?
What's behind door number one?
Hey, folks, it's Jordan, the intro guy. I'm filling in for Will. I am privileged to attempt to fill in the big shoes of Mr. Will Foley. I'm honored to be considered to be capable to fill in those shoes. So
You're fully capable.
Oh, well, thank you very much for
Will
that.
is out on assignment with his job, so he's doing all that stuff, and just taking a little step back from this for a minute. And we were lucky enough to have Jordan be available and trying on the slipper.
It doesn't fit so well, but I'm going to make it work.
He's going to make it work.
I'm going to make it work. Yeah, it's we miss Will. We wish he was here, but he's got things to take care of. So I'm going to be the guy who fills in for him while he's away.
There you go.
All right.
So what is this, episode 225?
225.
We're just coming off of Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, which was a fun-filled month, I guess you could say, for all. During all the events we had, everybody was, kind of bringing awareness and shedding light on suicide, and it was just really cool to see people coming together and, just being advocates and bringing light to, suicide awareness. So, that was it was good. We had fun at Rita. We had a table at Rita. So if you stop by at Rita and you said hi and grabbed a sticker or whatever, so thank you for that. And now here we are, moving on. What do we got today? We're gonna we're gonna ask questions, but we want to know how we as a whole, as a society, as a culture, as teachers, as professionals, how can we all ask better questions?
That's difficult. You want to be able to ask the right questions to receive the help that it is you need to receive. And that's the hardest part about asking for help is how do you really put it into words? I realize that I'm not getting the help that I need because maybe I'm not asking the right questions, but also people just in general don't know how to help. That's another, there's two parts of that, asking the right questions and receiving the right help.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand.
Oh, sure. There's probably more than two parts to it, actually, now that you say that. But
Absolutely. But off the top of my head, it's like, what's like the magic series of words that I can use to let people know exactly what it is that I'm feeling at this moment in time to receive the help that I believe that I need to receive.
Right.
Right? It's like, how do I unlock that combination lock? What do I say? And often I stammer, I stutter, and I fail to represent myself. Sucks.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't beat yourself up, because I think a lot of us do that. I think from what I've learned, through this whole, the podcast and being a mental health advocate and talking to different people, for myself to ask a better question is, how can I help you, or what can I do in this moment?
Right.
And like you said though, but that leaves it up to that person to say, hey, I know what would help me in this moment. And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes people don't know, or sometimes people may know, but they can't put it into words. They can't communicate
Right.
it.
So here's your first step. Here's what I believe you could use as a first step. If you're in need of help, first of all, be honest about how you feel. Honesty.
Yeah.
So honesty is difficult for most people because, like, why would you want to be honest? Why would you want to bare your soul to people and really tell them how you're really feeling? That's scary.
Sure.
So you shy away from that fear, and instead you kind of you beat around the bush, so to speak. Like, I'm feeling this way, but it's I'm kind of I'm in the neighborhood of like where I'm feeling. That's what's coming out, but I'm not really getting to like the point of the whole topic of conversation.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think, yeah, that's a different way I was looking at it, but I like it. Because, we talk about like the different emotions and the primary ones and the ones that kind of, secondary and the ones that kind of sit back.
Right.
So, you could be feeling, anger, but it could be, rejection or contempt, but it could be from it could be something so totally different, it could be sadness. It could be a bunch of different things.
So maybe you could start by asking yourself some questions before you ask others.
That'd be a good way too.
Yeah.
Ask yourself some questions.
It's like there is an inner dialogue that's going on in most people's head, like all the time.
Yeah.
And if you were to like bring that inner dialogue out, you might kind of sound a bit like, your inner dialogue, once it's like outwardly expressed, is easier to understand sometimes. Or maybe it's not. Maybe once it's out of you, it's like, well,
then it doesn't make sense.
Then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that could be scary because once you start to bring out the inner dialogue and it doesn't make sense.
But you know what though? I like the first point. Be honest. Then you could.
Okay.
Then it lies again in your hands, and you could say, "Hey, you know what? Like this either didn't come out right, or I'm way off target. I was thinking this, but now that I'm saying it and listening to myself, maybe I'm not thinking that. Maybe I didn't communicate it well, or it just doesn't seem to be working."
So there you go. So follow up with accountability. Once you bring up the honesty and what you're saying just doesn't sound or feel right, be accountable for that and fix fix your communication as you're communicating, not after the fact.
Right. Yeah, which is tough.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
You want to stand by your word. You want to sound like you know what you're talking about.
Right.
And not to constantly go back every 3 or 4 words and think, I don't mean that, I mean this. It's
right.
like,
but if you could ultimately stand by your word underneath that cloak of I'm here to help.
Right.
Technically you are standing by your word, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I think both this be honest, and accountability, I think this list that we may be starting, I feel like it goes for both parties too. You can't, I don't think, like if I'm asking you, hey, what do you need? Like if I'm being honest and being accountable, at the same time, if you kind of like shrug me off because you may be in the muck, you may be stuck in that mud.
Great point.
And not be able to, but at the same time, you have to own you have to have something you have to, it takes strength to ask for help. And that's, I think, part of that whole strength is you have to kind of, I don't know if I want to say push your ego aside, but just kind of get down to it and be honest with yourself and say, look, even if you say like, I'm struggling and I don't know how to ask for help.
Perfect.
I don't
There
know
you
exactly
go.
what I want.
That's a very honest statement, saying I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, that's a very honest statement. So let's go through like this theoretical scenario. I come to you, Tim, I need help and I don't know what I need. Meanwhile, you're going through this sort of inner turmoil where you can't even consider helping someone else because you need help yourself.
Yeah.
How do you address that? Like, what words would you choose to let that person know in the most honest, sincere form that you can
If
formulate?
I was able, if I was able to take what I can do right now and transfer it into the moment, I would either say, do you need me to listen? Do you need advice? or like what exactly are you looking for? And then maybe from that angle, then I could get more information and decide for myself, like, look, man, I'm actually kind of shitty right now. Like, I'll do my best to listen and stuff, but I may not be able, give you the best advice because I'm kind of going through it now. So my advice might be a little slanted.
So offer them that sort of disclosure, like, hey, this is where I'm coming from right now, and I want to be able to help you, but maybe like you could hear me out as well because, hey, I had a rough morning. I called out of work because I was in a weird headspace. I had an argument with a dude on the bus or at the grocery store, and then I realized I had all of this sort of angst and anger inside of me because of something that happened 14 years ago that I can't stop thinking about.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
I mean, that's real, right?
That's real.
That's real, yeah.
And that's honest.
Yeah. Yep. And that's disclosure.
So, disclosure,
accountability,
and
honesty. Wow.
So if you come out with that, those three, I believe, can assist you in offering better help, asking better questions, and answering those questions. But you could start there. Obviously, you can branch off of every one of those, and you can come up with...
No, but I think those are excellent like steps to take.
Yeah.
Towards this, to ask, how can we as individuals, as humans, ask better questions, and which really kind of equates to provide better help, better support.
Right. We all need better help. We all want to help one another. And if you don't want to help the people that you're with, then I guess be honest about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to help you. I can't help you. I can't even help myself.
Yeah. Which is it's true. I think
it's true.
And a lot of people can't, but they may feel shame or something admitting that, and a lot of people want to be seen and heard. So they may stuff that to be like, hey, I'll listen to you because then I feel included.
Yeah.
Because as humans, we want to have that connection.
Sure.
We want to be part of that tribe.
Yeah. But this can go down a really weird road. Like if you don't have the ability to help someone and still you try and you give them bad help, then you're not helping.
No, yeah, you don't want to. Do no harm for sure. That's
right.
That's something that always pops up because as soon as you said it, my alarm went off, and I'm like,
exactly.
Yeah, like I may not I don't care. I won't help you, but I'm not going to hurt you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm not going to leave you worse than you were.
And it leads to this, like, I've had situations where people have come to me for help and I'm not able to help, but I pretend that I am. I pretend that I'm like, oh, I'm here for you and I got what it takes, and I really don't. And I end up like kind of walking away from the conversation or situation like, man, I didn't really help them. And it feels like crap.
Well, you may have in some cases, though, if you just listened or something like that,
All right.
But, I think what's really important at the end of the day is how you feel. So if you feel that way, then it's best to, again, be honest, have accountability, and say, I can't right now.
Yeah.
I'm not in the place. I'm sorry. Like, you can maybe call me later.
Yeah.
Or we can, try and talk about this. Like, it's tough because a lot of people, if they're going through it, and if they're taking that step to ask for help, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So to have somebody say, hey, like it's, give me a couple hours, or now is not a perfect time for me.
Yeah.
I could see the other side getting knocked down a few notches and just be like, almost want to give up.
Yes.
But it's not that. It's like, I guess that's what I'm trying to say here is like, both parties have to have accountability.
Yes.
Because we can't, if the person that needs help is in need of help and goes to you, and you do, in my eyes, do the right thing and say, look, I'm not in the place right now to help you. Like, I could listen, and if that's good, if you just want me to listen,
yes.
I think I can do that. I can just sit here with you.
Right.
But if they want more and you can't give it, I think the right thing to do is say, I can't do it. But in return, if they get mad and walk away and get more pissed or sad or hurt, that's almost on them.
Right.
Because it's like you're doing what you can do.
All right, so this opens up a sort of a segue in some ways. Some people who claim that they want help or come to you for help don't actually want help. They might want attention.
Exactly.
They might want time.
They just want, yep.
They might want to steal some time. They might be like time thieves. and I hate to say that because, we're all guilty of like stealing people's time. I just want to offer better help to the people who I interact with. And if you're coming to me for help and I'm offering the help and I see you every day and you still need help, I start to realize maybe either I'm not helping or it's not help that you need, it's attention. And if you just want to have a conversation, let's just have a conversation.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But, okay, so asking for help. Have you experienced a situation where you went out on a limb and finally worked up the courage or bravery to ask for help and tried to find the right words and then fell flat on your face because the institution or people that you were trying to get help from just couldn't provide?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It sucked, but if I look back on it, I would say like 70% of it was also up to me. You know, if I entrusted somebody that I thought was close enough and I felt comfortable enough to be vulnerable with at the time, if I asked them and they were like, you know, kind of maybe made it worse.
Right.
Like in the moment, I would probably point the finger and blame them. But now that I look back on it, I go, well, it's kind of, you know what I mean? It is what it is. If I have an apple in my hand, I can't bite into it and expect to taste an orange.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
like
unrealistic.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
So if that's what it is, then that's what it is. But I went through a period where my therapist retired, and I was it was like to get a new therapist was tough.
Yeah.
Like waiting list, and then the waiting list is up. Nobody calls you. You call them, and they're like, "Well, we're still not to the point of, you know, taking new patients, or we don't have appointments, or there's only one doctor here. There's, you know what I mean?"
And how does that feel like when you desperately need the help and you're just being, you know, I don't know, pushed to the side or put to the back of the list or ignored?
Oh yeah, this is for me, and this is for me with everything. I think I'll start whatever it is I'm doing in life in general. So I'll start with like a full cup, and like something happens and some water spills out. Something else happens, some water spills out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm fine for a little bit, but once I'm done with the water, I'm like, all right, like now, that's it. Like I said I needed help like a week ago. Now I really need help. Like,
now it's truly an emergency. It's
right.
dire.
And sometimes you say that to people, and it's like, they almost want something more specific. And I'm like, what do you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to help me because I'm not more specific.
If you couldn't find the words when your cup was full, how can you find them when you're empty?
Right.
Now that it's dire and you're on the verge of screaming at people.
Right. And that's what it is. It usually,
Yeah.
for me, it turns into loss of skills, loss of coping mechanisms and all that stuff. Even though you think you have them, you're in it now, and now you're drowning. So now it's more of survival. And now I'm waving and yelling in the water like, I'm drowning, I need help.
Perfect. I like where this is going. So my next question is, when do we ask for help?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
As early as possible? At the risk of sounding like some sort of hypochondriac?
No, but yes.
Yeah. As soon as there's a problem, ask for help.
Yes. I think, like for me right now, my therapy is not very, it's more of, I can't think of the word that they use. It's there as like, it's help. Okay.
Okay.
But I can't think of the word that they use. But anyways, so I don't use it every week or every other week. I have it there as like a continuous thing. Okay. But they're just spread out. So it's like always there, you know, and if I needed to, hey, I don't have an appointment for another 4 weeks, but if something happens, I can call you, and if you fit me in, you can fit me in early.
Oh, I see. And how has that worked out for you?
So it's more of a maintenance.
It's a maintenance. Okay.
It's more of maintenance. For me, it is.
Are you in the maintenance stage?
I thought I was. You know, it's like, yeah, I think I am.
Okay.
Okay, let me say this. I might be in the maintenance stage, yes, but in my mind, I don't feel like I'm capable of being in the maintenance stage. I get a little nervous. Like, you know,
I
it's like
see.
that, the bird when he's first flying out of the nest.
Just a little.
Like, he can fly. All he's got to do is spread the wings and you're good. But there's that
you're hesitant
apprehension.
to take the first leap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, am I capable? Am my wings capable?
And that can kind of fill you with doubt and sort of a lonely feeling like, oh, my caretakers, my professionals, my providers think I'm ready for the maintenance phase, but I don't think I'm ready for the maintenance phase. Am I alone in this again, like I was before I got the help? You know, yeah, you can. I felt that way.
And I think, as you get deeper down into the mud, more of those thoughts occur,
Oh, yeah.
and it just becomes more and more and more ruminating on these thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's like you may need help here, but now as you're experiencing some of these things,
Okay.
that's when more of the irrational, the more emotional
Yeah.
mind takes over and just kind of leads the way of, oh, now I'm not getting help. Now nobody cares and nobody wants to help me. I'm never finding help. So
You're-
it's a scary.
It is. Your back's into a corner. You're like, I asked for help. I got some help, but I just don't feel ready to be without the help. And then you're left to help yourself. So that's kind of like after the maintenance stage, you're helping yourself. How do you help yourself?
Continue with the routine maintenance,
Routine maintenance.
things that you've learned.
Okay.
Go back to basics.
Right.
I always say keep it simple. Go back to basics, and how is your sleeping? How is your eating?
Right.
Are you getting exercise?
Right.
Can you get out on the weekends and play disc golf or something?
Yeah.
And find joy. Sorry, that just slipped out. And find joy in
Yeah.
something though, and find you know what I mean. I couldn't think of anything else.
No, that was perfect. That's what I was going to
but-
say. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like find those things that work for you.
Yeah.
That you've done before, and continue to do them, because I think a lot of people do them and they're like, oh man, I went hiking last week and it was just great. My mind was open and it was just clear, and like I didn't think about work, and then it's like 2 weeks later they're like, man, I'm just back to shit, and I'm like, well, like what do you think can help? And they're like, oh, I don't, and
Well,
it's
your
like,
routine fell off. You
Right.
thought you had it. You let go of you kind of loosen your grip on the reins, and then the horse got away from you.
you're right, and that's a good way to look at it, is loosening the grip, and it as shitty as it may sound for people, like you can't. Some of
can't.
us can't loosen those reins. You
Tim-
have to like keep it in that routine. You have to go, I'm going to get up at this time every day, and I'm going to do this every day. Like you go to the gym,
Right.
Like that's tough for people. Like
Yeah.
and whether you go in the morning or maybe you go after work, and even after work, it's
Yeah.
like, oh God, I just want to go home. I had a shitty day. No, I'm going to the gym.
Sure.
Like that takes,
Discipline.
yeah.
So we've talked about this before, the parallels between mental and physical health. Mental health is no different from physical health. Once you find and establish a routine for your physical health, and then you stop that routine, what happens?
Yep.
Okay, if I went to the gym for a year solid, 5 days a week, and I got in the best shape of my life, and then I stopped going, what would happen in a year from that day?
Right.
I would be right back where I started before I went to the gym. So same with your mental health, people. So if you establish a routine for your mental health and you have a couple of good days, you got a couple of good weeks, you're like, you know what? I'm good. I don't need the routine. I'm going to loosen my grip on the reins. And then you get caught in that whirlwind of life and
Yeah.
poor mental health. And then a year later, you find yourself back in the same situation, asking the wrong questions to the wrong people and not getting the help that you need. So I guess to sum this all up, you want to ask the right questions. You want to establish some sort of communication with honesty. And once you establish a routine that puts you in a better state of mental health, keep the routine. Never.
Let me put it this way. Let's go back to, if you remember, like maybe when you started going to the gym and working out.
Yeah.
Did you go to a gym and say, maybe I'll talk to a trainer, I'll try a trainer once or twice
Right.
to ask them questions?
It's a great question.
Because I'm just looking at as a whole as a way to ask better questions. And if I'm into cars and I want to like fix cars, or I want to work on my own car someday, I don't want to be like a big mechanic and own my own shop, but I want to understand
yeah.
and maintain my vehicle. How do I do that? Do I look up online? Do I ask somebody that knows about this? Do I, you know what I mean? Do I take a couple courses online and kind of, get some of that knowledge enough to where you can take care of your vehicle?
I was too shy to ask for help my first time in the gym. I pretended I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
There was a couple of people who attempted to help me, and along the way, I then modeled myself after the people who knew what they were doing, kind of mimicked them, and then found that like what worked for me along the way. To take what I want, leave the rest.
Yep.
Now let's compare that to mental health. If you find someone in your life that you can be close to and you could emulate yourself off of their positive mental health, and then as time goes on, find what works for you, take the pieces that fit, abandon the rest.
I think that's the most important part, is find out what works for you, because I think a lot of people will automatically look up to like a David Goggins or something like that, which is great.
Sure.
But you're also there's a huge gap.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't go, well, I want to be like this guy and just but this guy that you're striving to be is like does this stuff all day every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess be realistic and then figure out, whatever works for him may not work for you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like my first year in the gym, I thought I was, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, or Arnold Schwarzenegger. I would lift all sorts of weight because I was aiming as high as possible.
Right.
I wanted to get there, and I wanted to get there quick. It's like standing at the bottom of a ladder and reaching for the top rung. It's out of your reach.
Right. You wanted to get there quick. That's why I think...
I was ambitious.
Well, I think a lot of people want that quick fix. They want a pill.
That leads to failure in a lot of cases, and I hate saying it because I want you to aim high. I want you to be ambitious. I want you.
You can aim high, but I think you can aim high, but don't attach yourself to that high outcome.
Right.
You can aim high, but just work towards it incrementally and increase it and keep going up.
So that could be a part of like establishing that routine for yourself. Is like say, this is where I am, and be honest with yourself. This is where I want to be in this amount of time. This is where I want to be in this amount of time, and set up these steps.
Goals.
Yeah.
Set some goals.
Set some short-term, long-term goals. See where you're at. Be honest with the assessment. And then along the way, learn what questions to ask to get to that next goal.
Right, because I think actually doing the process will create more questions for you to ask.
Always more questions.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that because I feel like it's absolutely true. Because once you get more involved, then you start learning more, and then you go, okay, well now I have to question this part of it, and now I know this, but this may contradict what I thought earlier. So now
exactly, and then a funny thing happens. Once you've been doing this for long enough, people start asking you questions.
Yeah,
people that are
that's
coming up
cool,
that ladder, right? They're
right.
like, hey, how do you do this, or how'd you get here, or why is this the way it is, and then that kind of puts you in a weird position of, a different sort of accountability, where you got to be like, you got to give them the right answer to that question that's tailored to them, and they don't always want to hear it, and you should by no means lie to them and say,
right, yeah, no, I was just going to say that. You definitely won't.
No, I see this is your first day in the gym. You should go max out deadlift. Wrong, okay? If you are having the worst day of your life, if you're in some poor mental health, you need to start somewhere that allows you the ability to achieve a small goal that day that you're capable of achieving. Okay? You're not going to beat depression in 24 hours, but you might be able to put your pants on, comb your hair, do the laundry.
Perfect.
Or at the very least, open the shades and pet the cat. I don't care what you do.
Perfect.
One foot in front of the other.
Right. No, that's I can't even add to that. That's perfect.
Crawl, walk, run.
Like that. That's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
what I was trying to say earlier when you're like, when you have somebody that you're looking up to and you're like, I want to, like, it's just such a, like, sometimes success can be getting out of bed and taking a shower and brushing your teeth.
Or just asking a question.
Or just asking a question, right? Yeah.
Or
just,
asking for help.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
you got to start where you're at and just, I guess, be aware.
Yeah.
Be aware. And I think during that process of going through things, if you stay aware, you can actually be mindful enough to know some of these questions that you can ask.
Perfect.
You can kind of gather them in your head and go, maybe these are better questions because I've experienced some of this stuff, and since I have experienced, like you said, I've experienced.
Yeah.
If you've experienced your own weightlifting, and then you see somebody else and they ask you a question, and they're just starting out, be like, again, be honest, like, hey, like I know this because this is science, but I also know this worked for me.
Yes.
This may not work for you, but you could try it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is difficult for people to understand, but we often move forward by looking back. We use nostalgia to orient ourselves and our decisions in the future. If you don't know where you're going, you look at where you've been. You kind of retrace your steps. So I say that because you're not always going to know what to do next. You're not always going to know what to say next or how to ask for questions that will lead you to where you're going next. But you can look at what you've done in the past.
So like having insight, would you say?
Yeah, insight and just using the past as a reference of what was worked for you and what may work for you in the future. And that requires honesty because you have to assess your past.
And you have to accept the good and the bad too.
And be accountable for your failures.
And be accountable, say, hey, I know that I've done this in the past and it was unhelpful. It didn't work for me.
Didn't work. And it's not going to work again.
It's not going to work now, right?
No.
If it didn't work then, it's most likely not going to work now. So, it's that whole, I don't even know who said it, but it's like if you continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, you know what I mean? Like,
it's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
And it's been said many different ways.
Yeah.
But it's, don't define insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think instead of using your time and energy to define things, it's best to use your time and energy to kind of stay aware of where you're at currently.
Okay.
And at the same time, not only where you're at currently, but pay attention to, like you said, those short and long-term goals. Where you're at now, but also where you would like to be.
There you go.
What you want to strive for.
And how do I get there?
And how do I get there?
What's step one?
Right. And what questions I need to ask to get there. Because, that's part of the steps, right?
And
is asking questions.
And what kind of help am I going to need? You're going to need help. You can't do it alone. And you're going to need to help. That's what people don't realize. As you start to get there, as you start to move up that ladder, it's kind of on you to help the people that are moving up the ladder with you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It can be. Like you can go it alone. Try it. I dare you. But this whole thing's a lot better if we help one another. It really
I think
is.
it'll, like you said, I don't know, you can probably attest to it, but like if you're in the gym and somebody were like to ask you a question, it kind of, it might catch you off guard, but at the same time, it might be like, oh, I have an opportunity to help somebody. It can make you feel better.
It does.
You know what I mean?
It's in a way, it's confirmation. Like you've achieved the ability to not only ask for help, but give help.
Right.
All right? That means you've moved off of step one. You're somewhere above step one once you're given help.
Good point. Yeah. Right. And I think that's how we all get higher up the steps is by helping each other.
Right.
One thing that I do want to throw in quick that as we're talking, I was looking at this as how do we ask better questions, but I think there's a side to this that we're not going to tackle, but I do want to bring up is how do we listen better?
Well, when you're listening, listen. When you're talking, talk.
Okay.
Those are two different things.
Well, just because I think sometimes people get stuck, and again, I'm looking at a whole. I'm looking because this kind of question started. We had a guest on recently, and it really kind of like hit something that like we're doing these things, but nothing really seems to be changing for the better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like how. In my head, I'm like, okay, well, what do we need to do? Like, we need to start asking better questions and figure out how that we can change for the better. That's where this kind of started from for me. So, but I'm like, maybe there's also part of it of listening because if here I am and this is what I believe and no, I'm not going to hear your point. Well, then there we're at. Then you're right. Nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think listening is key to this as well.
It is the key. Yeah, you have to be an active listener, and a participant in these conversations. And these conversations often work in two different directions. Some give, some take.
But I think that you should still have the conversation. I think that's what can move you to continue to ask questions, but move you to ask those newer questions that could be more beneficial and progressive along the way.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I be honest, have accountability, and use disclosure.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
Yeah. That's
which like if you think about these, you can almost file it under like vulnerability in a way.
You could. Yeah. Well, I think it requires you to be vulnerable in a lot of ways and put your guard down. So if you're a guarded person, it's really difficult to ask for help. You don't you don't want people to see that side of you, the unguarded side of you. That's on you. If you want to.
It is, but it's a tough. That can be a deep rooted trauma which I understand, but I get what you're saying. It's totally on. Like it's something that you need to turn inward, be honest with yourself, and have accountability for yourself. Right.
Start with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all starts. That's you know what I mean. I can't change you. I can't change her or him and them. I can't. Yeah. I can change myself, and if you want to, again, if for some reason, if I may be on step 1 or 2, you may want to look over and go, well, geez, look what this person's doing, and they kind of doing some cool things that I like, then that might inspire them to change a bit. But I can't say anything that's going to make you change.
No, I don't believe that you want that power over another person. I don't believe that you want the power to change people. The power is within the person to change.
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah. I personally don't want it. I want the power to be able to awaken them to the realization that they already have what it takes.
Then if my story about going to the gym helps you out at all, then understand that no one helped me. I helped myself by modeling myself after people who were helping themselves.
Yeah, so that kind of goes right. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you're right, because that's when you say it that way, it's almost like I'm almost hesitant to be all in, but it goes with what I said. So yeah, it's right. I just said it a little bit differently. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think modeling it that way and living it. With that, and it's with anything. If you want to, Michael Jordan didn't just pick up a basketball one day and become Michael Jordan.
No, he did.
All right, he did.
Yeah, he did. He's the exception, though. He was the one guy who he started at the top of the ladder.
But he still needed to practice. He still needed to be able to work with his teammates and
he
run
practiced
plays.
more than anyone, and he was the best from the beginning.
Right.
Like there's people who are just born different, but they work harder, so they become once in a lifetime talents. Right? You got people like that every 20 to 30 years, every generation of Michael Jordan comes along.
Right.
Yeah, they're born with these God-given gifts, and then they outwork everyone around them. So that's up to you. If you want to be the hardest working person in the room.
That's a good way to put it. It is up to you, you know. But if you just want to strive to be happy and find some joy in your life, that's obviously perfectly acceptable as well.
I think there's something absolutely perfect about being absolutely normal.
No, that's a great quote. Yeah, you're right.
For whatever normal means to you.
For whatever normal means to you. What does it mean to you, everybody?
Tell us. Send us a comment, leave us an email, send us a letter in the mail, put a stamp on it, signed, sealed, delivered.
Yes.
We would just love if you reached out to us somehow, some way. Would you?
Get a hold of us on Instagram.
Yeah, do that.
And if you like the episode, and if you think someone that could benefit from the episode, you can also share the episode.
Share the episode. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Right?
Well, I think that was a good one. What do you think, Tim?
I think it was a good one, too.
All right.
So until next week, get well.
Be safe.
Stay above. Thank you for giving us a listen. New episodes every Wednesday. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can share, rate, review, and even subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Other ways to support the show: follow us on social media, share the content, share our episodes. You can also buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/abovegroundpod. For further concerns, show ideas, or just to say hi, you can email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail. Once again, thank you for listening and supporting mental health. Keep the conversation going and stay above.